Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button, drop a comment about what you think will happen next, and subscribe for more epic human versus galaxy stories. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. The sky above the ancient temple burned with the cold light of distant stars, a jagged lattice of silver against black void. The Zarkai raiders descended in their sleek vessels, hulls glinting like shards of obsidian, their claws extended and weapons humming in anticipation. They had come expecting an easy conquest, a symbolic victory to broadcast across their star systems. Earth, they assumed, was still primitive, its defenders predictable and weak. Inside the mountain where the temple had stood for millennia, the air was thick with incense that no human had tended for decades. Stones older than recorded history bore carvings no alien eye had ever traced. The corridors twisted with geometric perfection, responding to some logic older than the invaders themselves. Sensors, instruments, and scanners failed to read more than empty stone. To the Zarkai, this was absurd. A place without defense should yield immediately. Lieutenant Corvith, the raiders' field commander, laughed as he surveyed the grand hall. "Humans built myths, not fortresses," he said, his voice vibrating through his helmet. "And we will erase both with ease." Around him, squads fanned out, their footsteps echoing in empty chambers that seemed to resist sound itself. Corvith's confidence persisted only briefly. One scout, moving ahead of the formation, reported an anomaly. A corridor that had been straight appeared curved on his hollow screen. When he stepped forward, the floor was solid stone, but the path behind him had shifted. He turned back. Nothing. No wall, no floor, just emptiness. The squad assumed it a glitch and pressed onward, laughter filling the cavernous space. A sudden shriek shattered the mirth. The scout had vanished. His companions found only a smear of blood on the cold stone, and no footprints leading to or from it. Corvith's grin faltered. "An accident," he said, voice tighter than before, but the soldier's eyes darted nervously, scanning shadows that did not belong to any light source. Elsewhere, the temple's inner sanctum remained untouched by alien intrusion. Here, the carvings glowed faintly as though awakened by the raiders' presence. A single figure moved in silence, unseen, unheard, a shadow among shadows. His footsteps made no sound, his breath left no trace. He was not a warrior of the armies the raiders had studied. He was something older, something trained not by orders but by purpose. His eyes, dark as obsidian, traced the patterns of the invaders' movements, calculating, waiting. Corvith's squad breached the central hall. Weapons raised, scanners sweeping, they found nothing, except the temperature dropped suddenly, their instruments warning of an energy spike that defied explanation. Panic rippled subtly through the ranks, a ripple Corvith felt deep in his chest. The lieutenant barked orders to regroup, but the echoes carried no authority. The unseen watcher had chosen the moment. In a flash, one raider's body twisted and dropped, a silent victim of invisible hands. Another tripped over nothing, crashing into stone and leaving a shattered helmet. Corvith shouted, firing indiscriminately, but the rounds met only air. The temple itself seemed to conspire against them, corridors elongating, angles bending. The air vibrated faintly, carrying a rhythm that no alien technology could parse. Fear began to replace arrogance. Corvith noticed it first, a flicker in the eyes of the remaining soldiers. The myth of human weakness, of easy conquest, had been shattered in minutes. He clenched his fists, feeling the first real doubt he had ever known. Somewhere in the dark, a presence waited, patient and unmoving, allowing the raiders to realize they were not hunting a man. They were intruding upon a force older than any empire they had toppled. As the squad retreated toward the entrance, Corvith could not shake the sound of footsteps that matched none of their own. Each step behind him was precise, deliberate, impossible to locate. The lieutenant spun, weapon raised, only to see a shadow vanish before his eyes. Sweat coated his exosuit, his mind racing for any strategy, any advantage, but the temple had already stripped them of all certainties. The last image Corvith saw before the inner doors sealed was a pair of human eyes, calm, unflinching, set in a face that had known no fear because it had never depended on others to survive. The raiders stumbled backward, retreating into the corridors that now twisted against them. Somewhere deep inside, the silent warrior waited, patient, unyielding, a storm contained in stillness. The aliens had expected a battle they could control. Instead, they had entered a trap without walls, a hunt without prey. And yet, they had only glimpsed the beginning. The temple whispered secrets older than stars, and the silent warrior listened. Corvith clenched his teeth and turned to his squad. "Fall back, but mark my words, we will return." He did not know that the temple itself, or whatever force inhabited it, had already anticipated their every move. The night outside remained calm, but within a war had silently begun. The stars outside twinkled indifferently, but somewhere on Earth, a human waited in shadows, ready to show the galaxy what it had always underestimated. The corridors echoed with confusion, alien scanners failing to read more than shifting stone. Corvitha's retreating squad stumbled over halls that no longer obeyed geometry, corners stretching impossibly, shadows elongating unnaturally. Fear had replaced arrogance, a silent predator stalking their minds even before it touched their bodies. Each step they took seemed preordained, part of a pattern they could neither decipher nor escape. The silent warrior moved with the precision of inevitability. He was not swift, nor loud, nor flamboyant. He simply existed in the spaces the raiders could not see. A hand extended here, a subtle shift of weight there, and another raider fell, unconscious, perfectly incapacitated without a struggle. It was artistry and efficiency intertwined, lethal yet deliberate, like a predator teaching respect without rage. Corvitha's lieutenant, Enalvar, tried to rally his men. "Stay together," he barked, voice trembling under the weight of unseen pressure. They obeyed, but instinct gnawed at them, the creeping sense that they were being toyed with. Every door they opened led to the same unsettling emptiness. Every corridor they advanced into seemed to fold, stretch, or vanish. Even their scanners, a technology designed to detect energy signatures across light years, registered nothing. A soldier screamed when he stepped onto what should have been solid stone. The floor gave way, revealing nothing but darkness below. By the time he could grasp a ledge, the silent warrior had already vanished from sight, leaving only the echo of movement that no human could replicate. Corvitha's squad froze, realizing they were no longer the hunters. They were intruders, blind and vulnerable, in a place that had chosen its defender carefully. The warrior's presence was felt rather than seen. A subtle pressure on the air, a slight resistance to the raiders' motions, and the faintest whisper of stone grinding under weight too light to belong to human feet. Corvitha's mind raced for a solution, a counter, a weapon to even the odds, but there was none. Here, in this temple older than the stars in their charts, conventional tactics failed. One raider, emboldened or desperate, swung a plasma blade at the empty air. The weapon met resistance, not flesh, not metal, but an invisible barrier that bent the energy harmlessly aside. He staggered backward, eyes wide, unsure if he had been struck by magic or madness. Around him, others began to falter, the first hints of panic flickering across armored visages. Corvitha's own heartbeat thudded in his ears. Control, the one thing he had always relied upon, was slipping. Outside the central hall, a chamber opened into a vast atrium, the ceiling vaulted and etched with carvings that seemed to move when viewed from the corner of the eye. The silent warrior emerged briefly from the shadows, not to fight but to observe. His gaze fell upon each intruder, measuring, assessing, weighing not just strength but intent. He did not rush. He did not shout. He was waiting, and every alien instinct screamed that waiting was dangerous. One of the raiders, a young soldier named Varric, attempted to communicate, sending a signal for reinforcements. The moment his message left the ship, the silent warrior struck. A silent lunge, a flick of a hand, and Varric's helmet clattered to the stone. No wounds, no struggle, only a subtle reminder that presence mattered more than weapons here. The other raiders glanced at each other, unease solidifying into terror. Their confidence had evaporated, replaced by an understanding they were facing something utterly alien to their experience. Corvitha's voice shook as he issued orders, trying to impose structure where none existed. Regroup, pull back. Do not engage individually. His men moved as one, but the temple itself resisted. Corridors seemed longer, walls shifted imperceptibly, and the echoes of footsteps multiplied unnaturally. Every soldier sensed the weight of unseen eyes, the pressure of an intelligence not mechanical, not tribal, but human, silent, patient, and implacable. A door slammed shut behind them. Corvith turned, weapon raised, expecting confrontation, only to find empty stone. Behind him, the sound of movement suggested another soldier had fallen, yet no body was visible. Panic spread faster than any command, fear rendering ranks useless. The silent warrior did not strike indiscriminately. He allowed retreat, confusion, and hesitation to fracture their cohesion. They were learning too late that he did not need to kill to win. The squad finally reached what appeared to be an exit corridor. Relief flickered across faces, quickly snuffed by the unmistakable sense of being watched. A low hum filled the air, vibrating through their suits, a resonance that suggested the temple itself had awareness. Corvitha's hand tightened around his weapon. "This is no human soldier," he whispered, voice barely audible. "This is something else entirely." And then the warrior revealed himself fully, if only briefly. Standing atop the atrium steps, eyes dark, expression impassive, he radiated calm determination. No words were spoken. No gestures made. Yet the raiders felt the weight of a presence that could end them all if it chose. They stumbled back, hearts pounding, realizing the hunt had already turned. Corvith swallowed hard, desperation mingling with awe. "We underestimated them," he muttered, but his own admission sounded hollow even to his ears. The silent warrior stepped back into shadow, unseen yet unrelenting, letting fear do the work no weapon could accomplish. The raiders fled into the twisting corridors, their retreat uncoordinated and frantic. Every step seemed preordained, every path subtly guided toward confusion, toward awareness of the futility of conventional tactics. Somewhere deep inside, the temple's heart pulsed, synchronized with the silent guardian's rhythm. The invasion had begun, but the first strike, unseen and unstoppable, had already been won. Corvith pressed a hand to his chest, mind reeling with the realization. Earth's defenses were not what they had expected. The silent warrior was no soldier. He was a threshold, a force, an impossibility cloaked in human skin. As the raiders regrouped in trembling clusters, Corvith knew one immutable truth: this encounter was only the beginning. The galaxy would soon learn, and he feared that by then it might be too late. The temple waited in stillness, patient, implacable. And the silent warrior, unseen yet omnipresent, prepared for the next move. The raiders fled into the outer galleries of the temple, but even at a distance, the silent warrior's presence loomed. The air seemed heavier, charged with a tension that machines could not measure. Corvith stumbled along the stone paths, his mind racing with fragmented data, but nothing he knew about warfare applied here. Earth had become a puzzle designed to unpick the arrogance of invaders. The silent warrior did not pursue recklessly. He moved like the shadow of inevitability, always in the periphery, always where the raiders feared to tread. His movements were deliberate, each step considered not only for immediate effect but for the message it conveyed. Humans were neither chaotic nor predictable. They were custodians of something older, something the galaxy had ignored for millennia. Corvitha's mind refused to accept it. "Humans are weak. Primitive. We've studied them," he muttered, gripping his weapon as if force alone could restore his confidence. Around him, the soldiers whispered among themselves, voices laced with terror and disbelief. Every corridor they navigated seemed to reject their intrusion, folding subtly, misaligning walls, and bending their instruments' readings. The temple itself acted as both guide and guardian. Far above the intruders, the central spire of the temple rose into the cavern like a shard of black crystal. Within it, mechanisms older than history stirred with purpose. The silent warrior entered the spire's chamber, pausing at a triangular altar etched with glyphs that pulsed faintly under his gaze. He placed his hands lightly on the stone, feeling the hum of energy that anchored the temple's defenses to Earth itself. Here he was not a soldier. He was a key, a living instrument designed to awaken forces dormant but ready. The raiders regrouped near what they thought was a vantage point. Their communications crackled, urgent, a mix of coordination and panic. Corvith issued rapid orders, but their formations fell apart under pressure. The silent warrior observed, calculating the minimum intervention needed to prevent lethal engagement yet maximize psychological domination. He understood fear, patience, and respect in ways the aliens could not anticipate. Corvitha's lieutenant, Nalvar, attempted to rationalize. "We can outmaneuver him if we strike in unison," he said. Yet even as he spoke, a corridor twisted impossibly, forcing them to split. One by one, raiders found themselves isolated, facing the impossibility of empty halls that whispered their vulnerabilities. The silent warrior did not strike. He waited, allowed them to learn the futility of conventional aggression. Through whispers and fragmented glimpses, the aliens began to piece together what they had underestimated. These humans did not rely on numbers or firepower. They relied on knowledge, discipline, and connection to the land, to the stone, to a legacy the galaxy had ignored. The silent warrior's every decision revealed mastery of strategy that transcended weaponry, control over perception, over space, over the very rhythm of the hunt. Corvith, desperate to regain authority, attempted a flanking maneuver. He led 3 raiders along a narrow corridor lined with glyphs that shimmered faintly in their lights. Suddenly the glyphs reacted, glowing brighter and casting shadows that disoriented the soldiers. One fell, clutching his head as nausea and vertigo struck simultaneously. Corvith realized with dawning horror that the temple itself was aware of them, but only through the silent warrior. He was the anchor, the link between human will and the mountain's hidden power. The warrior's movements were almost imperceptible. A flash of motion here, a subtle shift there, and the aliens found themselves trapped in corridors that seemed to fold endlessly. Their scanners, their weapons, even their instincts betrayed them. Corvith's squad splintered, each member consumed by doubt, fatigue, and fear. In the heart of the temple, the silent warrior's calm resolve remained unbroken. He was not hurried, not reactive, yet every alien instinct screamed that he was already winning. Corvith's frustration escalated. "We have faced stronger foes," he shouted. Yet the temple responded only to the silent warrior's presence, shifting subtly, echoing with energy, a symphony of ancient defense and modern awareness. The aliens were learning the true meaning of human resilience. It was not about aggression. It was about purpose, patience, and the guardianship of something far greater than themselves. From the spire, the silent warrior observed the scattered raiders. Their panic was evident, but they still clung to the hope of retreat or reinforcements. He allowed them a moment, a single opportunity to recognize that their assumptions were false. Then, with a movement as swift and silent as falling stone, he reappeared in the hall, a figure framed by shadow, unyielding, deliberate. The raiders froze, realizing they were surrounded not by numbers, but by inevitability itself. Corvith's voice faltered. This is not war. This is a lesson," he muttered, aware that whatever happened next would redefine his understanding of conflict. The silent warrior did not respond. He did not need to. Every gesture, every pause, every calculated step conveyed dominance. The temple's mechanisms responded, corridors sealing and opening, guiding the raiders toward the understanding they were outmatched without requiring a single kill. As the alien forces retreated to regroup at the outer halls, Corvith caught a fleeting glimpse of the warrior's face, calm, unflinching, ancient in a way that no technology could quantify. The human stood as both sentinel and threshold, a guardian whose strength lay not in the weapons he wielded but in the history, discipline, and purpose he embodied. The raiders stumbled into the open atrium, hearts pounding, every sense screaming danger, yet only a fraction of the silent warrior's capability had been revealed. Corvith understood, finally, that the invasion had been anticipated, choreographed in ways they could not predict. Earth's defense was not its soldiers, its weapons, or its fleets. It was humans like him, silent, patient, and unstoppable. And as the shadows in the corridors deepened, as the temple settled into its timeless rhythm, the silent warrior prepared for the next phase. He would not strike recklessly, but the galaxy had already begun to understand that these humans were unlike anything it had ever faced. The first victory had been subtle, psychological, yet absolute. The raiders would live to fear the next encounter, and Corvith's mind churned with a singular, terrifying truth. The silent warrior was only beginning. The spire hummed faintly, a heartbeat beneath stone, as if the mountain itself exhaled through him. Corvith's retreating figure vanished into the twisting corridors, and the temple waited, patient and eternal, for the next confrontation. Corvith's remaining forces had regrouped at the temple's outer perimeter, vessels hovering nervously above jagged cliffs. Fear was no longer a whisper, it had become a tangible presence, coiling in their minds, unrelenting. They had expected Earth to yield, expected resistance to crumble under their firepower. Instead, the silent warrior had rewritten the rules of engagement before a single shot had been fired. The warrior moved through the temple with a patience born of purpose. He did not chase. He did not hunt recklessly. His movements were measured, economical, and absolute, a study in efficiency that left nothing to chance. One by one, alien squads found themselves incapacitated or disoriented, trapped in corridors that bent impossibly, guided by the temple's subtle, ancient mechanisms. They did not see him. They could not anticipate him. Corvith barked orders, attempting to impose structure on chaos. Form ranks. Cover each other. Do not fall. But every command fell flat against the invisible pressure pressing on their minds. Soldiers stumbled, turned corners that no longer led where they expected, and found themselves facing traps that required no construction, only observation and timing. The silent warrior had become both hunter and instrument, orchestrating the environment as skillfully as a conductor commanding an orchestra. Enelvar, desperate to salvage what remained of his pride, led a small strike team into the atrium, hoping to engage the human directly. The corridor narrowed abruptly, walls closing imperceptibly. His squad fell into confusion, scrambling as doors sealed and shifted. One soldier vanished entirely, leaving only a brief echo of movement and the faintest smear of blood. Enealvar's voice cracked. "What is this, sorcery?" The silent warrior emerged from the shadows, standing atop the steps leading to the central spire. He did not charge. He did not shout. He simply observed, unblinking and calm, radiating a confidence that belied the chaos surrounding him. Every raider who dared meet his gaze felt an instinctive, irrational certainty. This human was not merely defending the temple. He was the temple. Corvith activated his fleet's orbital support, ordering precision strikes against the inner structure. Explosions rippled through outer walls, scattering debris, but the temple endured as if shrugging off punishment. The silent warrior moved through falling stones and smoke, unharmed, unhurried, and untouched. The raider's belief in technological supremacy cracked with every step he took. Every maneuver he executed revealed a truth they had ignored. Humans did not rely solely on weapons. They relied on mastery, knowledge, and presence. The silent warrior did not need to fight each raider individually. He manipulated the battlefield, using the temple itself as a weapon. Doors and passages shifted to isolate groups, corridors narrowed, light and shadow conspired to disorient. The aliens fired blindly, energy blasts ricocheting harmlessly off stones that seemed alive, guided by hands and minds unseen. Each failed strike increased their panic, and with panic came mistakes. Corvith realized, in a cold pulse of clarity, that conventional tactics were meaningless here. "We've underestimated them," he admitted, voice hollow, his confidence shattered. His soldiers whispered in fear, sensing that the silent warrior's purpose extended beyond defense. He was a lesson, a force designed to demonstrate limits, patience, and human precision. Every alien instinct told them to flee, but the temple's layout and the warrior's manipulation left them with few choices. One raider attempted to flank the human, diving through a side passage with energy weapon raised. The corridor twisted unexpectedly, forcing the soldier into a dead end. The silent warrior appeared silently behind him, a shadow no eye could track, and in a motion so fast it seemed unreal, the alien collapsed, incapacitated without a struggle. His squadmates did not dare intervene, frozen by the inevitability of the warrior's presence. Corvith pressed his suit's communication, desperately calling for retreat, reinforcements, anything. Yet even as his commands left his lips, he understood the futility. Earth's defense was not contingent on numbers, fleets, or firepower. It was contingent on humans like this warrior, individuals capable of turning environment, instinct, and intellect into a weapon far beyond alien calculation. The realization sank into Corvith with the weight of despair. The silent warrior paused atop the atrium steps, surveying the scattered forces below. He did not pursue annihilation, but his mere presence held dominance. Aliens found themselves immobilized not by physical constraint, but by recognition. Here was a human who transcended expectation, whose patience and purpose outmatched their aggression. Each of Corvith's plans unraveled in the face of this silent authority. A squad attempted a synchronized strike, converging on the warrior from three directions. The corridors shifted subtly, their paths folding upon themselves. One by one they were isolated, each movement orchestrated to demonstrate futility without the need for violence. When the last of the squad retreated, shaken and uncertain, the silent warrior remained where he had been, unyielding, unmoved, an anchor of inevitability. Corvith finally understood. The war he had anticipated, the battle of firepower and tactics, was never meant to be won by conventional means. Humanity's strength was not in fleet size or weaponry. It was in mastery over space, discipline, and the guardianship of legacy. The silent warrior had not struck to kill. He had demonstrated, with precision and patience, that Earth's defenses were beyond the galaxy's comprehension. The alien commander's resolve fractured as the full scale of human ingenuity revealed itself. Retreat was no longer an option that promised safety, but the only choice that might preserve life. Corvith's forces fled toward their vessels, disorganized and demoralized, each soldier carrying a newfound reverence for the species they had underestimated. The silent warrior watched, unhurried, knowing that their flight was temporary and the lesson permanent. Above the temple, the sky burned quietly with distant stars. The battle had not been loud, nor had it been long, yet the galaxy would remember this encounter. The silent warrior's purpose was not complete. His trial was far from over. But the first assertion of human dominance had been made, subtle yet undeniable. Corvith's ships disappeared over the horizon, carrying tales of a human who did not fight like a soldier but like inevitability itself. The temple exhaled faintly, ancient stones settling after the disturbance. The silent warrior turned back into shadow, calm, patient, and eternal. He had won not through annihilation but through demonstration, leaving the invaders with a single inescapable truth. Earth was defended by humans who would never be underestimated again. And far beyond the mountains, the stars waited to see how the galaxy would respond to a species it had long overlooked. The silent warrior prepared for the inevitable next encounter, a guardian whose legend was only beginning to awaken. Corvitha's fleet retreated beyond the planet's atmosphere, hulls scarred and morale shattered. Silence had fallen over the temple, but it was not quiet. The mountains themselves seemed to hum with the memory of the encounter, each stone remembering the presence that had reshaped the raiders' perception of humanity. The silent warrior remained within the shadowed halls, a figure of calm authority, surveying the ancient corridors as if listening to whispers of the past. He had fought without need, dominated without cruelty, and yet the weight of responsibility pressed against his shoulders. Every stone, every glyph, every mechanism of the temple responded to him because he was bound to it, not as a soldier but as a custodian. His oath was older than nations, older than weapons, older than the stars the aliens had taken for granted. He was the threshold, the line that no invader could cross without consequence. Corvith stared out from his command bridge, the galaxy spread below like a map of shattered confidence. For the first time he felt something alien to him, awe. Not respect earned by strength alone, but recognition of a force that defied prediction. He had come to conquer, to dominate, and yet he left humbled, his assumptions dismantled. Humanity was not fragile. Humanity was inevitable. Back on the surface, the silent warrior walked through the atrium, his hand brushing against the glowing glyphs. He could feel the pulse of the temple beneath his fingers, an energy older than recorded history, resonant with human ingenuity, patience, and vigilance. For him, the battle had not been against raiders alone. It had been against complacency, against the galaxy's arrogance, against the notion that humans could be ignored. He was the embodiment of their underestimated strength. A young apprentice, hidden in a side chamber, watched the warrior move. Eyes wide, he felt a mixture of fear and reverence. The silent warrior paused, noticing him without turning, and inclined his head ever so slightly. It was not a gesture of superiority, but of acknowledgement. Legacy was not inherited, it was observed, absorbed, and understood. The boy understood then that the temple's true power was not its walls, but the humans who protected it. Corvitha's transmissions crackled across subspace, desperate and disbelieving. "We've encountered a weapon unlike any other," he said. "Not a soldier. Not a fleet. A human guardian." The message was fragmented, hesitant, betraying the terror that lurked beneath his calculated voice. The galaxy would receive the reports, but comprehension would take time, and by then humans would already be steps ahead, silent and unassuming, guardians of thresholds no one had known existed. The temple exhaled, settling into its timeless rhythm. The silent warrior walked the corridors, observing the aftermath of the brief but decisive encounter. Scars on stone, fissures in floors, the subtle rearrangement of halls, all traces of a battle that had been won without spectacle, a victory of purpose over brute force. He did not celebrate. He did not boast. He understood that the real war was not fought in moments of confrontation, but in the enduring vigilance of those who watched and waited. Corvitha's fleet had vanished from the skies, but the lesson lingered. Tales of a human who did not fight like other species, who moved with the certainty of inevitability, spread through alien channels. Ships would pause at reports of Earth. Commanders would rethink strategies. Humans had not yet shown their full power, but the first demonstration was enough. Fear, respect, and awe had been sown in equal measure. The silent warrior ascended to the central spire, placing his hand once more on the ancient altar. He felt the pulse of the temple, the heartbeat of the planet, and the subtle acknowledgement of a legacy that extended beyond his own life. He was one among many, chosen and disciplined, a sentinel of thresholds whose importance the galaxy would soon recognize. His eyes, dark and unyielding, scanned the horizon. Above, the stars glimmered, indifferent yet observant. Somewhere among them, fleets would plan, empires would debate, and the first seeds of caution regarding humanity would germinate. But on this mountain, Earth's guardian stood alone, uncelebrated yet unbroken, a human whose patience, intelligence, and purpose had turned the tide without a single boast. The apprentice approached, hesitant but determined, eyes reflecting the dim light of the glyphs. "Master, will they return?" he asked, voice barely a whisper. The silent warrior did not need to answer. His presence alone conveyed the truth. Earth's guardians never retreated. They waited. They watched. They ensured that no threshold, no sacred place, no legacy could be violated without consequence. The boy understood, and in that understanding, a new cycle of vigilance was born. Corvitha's fleet would return, as all invaders eventually did, but he would not meet the same human twice without fear. Humanity had demonstrated what it always had: ingenuity, patience, resilience, and a refusal to be underestimated. Across the galaxy, whispers would spread of a species capable of bending destiny itself, of guardians who made entire empires hesitate. The silent warrior turned his gaze toward the distant horizon, where the first hints of dawn crept across jagged peaks. He did not celebrate victory. He did not anticipate accolades. His duty was eternal, his purpose unshakable. He was the silent protector, the unseen force, the living testament to a truth the galaxy had forgotten. Humans were not just survivors. Humans were inevitability made flesh. And somewhere beyond the stars, the galaxy would learn, slowly and painfully, that the era of underestimating humanity was over. The silent warrior's shadow fell long across the temple, a promise written in stone and silence. Earth's guardians were patient, precise, and eternal. Any who threatened them would learn the hard way. The mountain held its secrets, the stars observed, and the silent warrior remained unbroken, calm, and unstoppable, ready for whatever the galaxy might send next.